Post GP of Miami. Here we go. How are you guys? Yo, and what is going on, guys? Welcome back in a brand new video. We have, as always, our standings, and we're gonna go with a rating to all the 20 drivers. We're gonna start with Jack Duran, the first retirement of the race at lap 1. What we can say about the Duran weekend? Nothing really to say. Bit baggy, but the Alpine wasn't really there this weekend. So he did, yeah, worse than Gasly, obviously, but we can't really give him a proper rating as we didn't see the race. I would give him like a 5.5 because he's behind his teammate. It was behind in the qualifying, it was behind in the sprint race, and so that's why. But nothing really I have to say about the Duran weekend. Pretty unlucky with a lap 1 collision that caused a virtual safety car. No, nothing. I think a virtual safety car, yeah. I think, yeah. By the way, Oliver Berman, him as well. Nothing we can really say. Crash in FP1, not the best. So that. Then he did his weekend. Not really impressive, you know. Also, if we look at the sprint race behind his teammate in the qualifying in particular, he's P20 while his teammate was P9 in some way. So not the best weekend for Oliver Berman. I would give him a 5 out of 10. To be honest, only because of the qualifying, because then he retired, so we can't really talk a lot about his race. He retired for an engine problem. But on the qualifying, yeah, P20 while your teammate is in Q3 isn't the best thing. A track where he never drove, so okay, can happen. It's not the end of the world, obviously. Oliver Berman is very talented, but not the best weekend, not the easiest weekend for the driver. Again, another retirement. Bortoleto, another Ferrari engine. That's pretty much scaring me, to be honest. But yeah, what we can say about the Bortoleto weekend behind his teammate again, which is not ideal, but Nicole Hülkenberg is very experienced, so it's okay. He's at him as well. He's a circuit that he never drove, so he was doing what he had to do. Actually, 6 out of 10 for him. Liam Lawson, very unlucky, to be honest. Liam Lawson, turn 1 crash, maybe close a bit too much the wall, the door basically, but still behind his teammate that is a rookie. Remember, he never drove in this track. Still behind. Also Lawson actually never drove in this track, okay, but still behind his teammate. So 2 rookies in this track and you're behind your teammate. Not ideal for Liam Lawson. I would give him a 5 out of 10. Very good, by the way. The V-carb livery, V-carb suites, not really had the Lawson performance in this weekend, to be honest. The first driver to conclude the race is Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll, P16 with an Aston Martin that was anonymous. He drove, maybe, he didn't drove faster, but almost, you know, he didn't cause any damages this weekend, unlike his teammate Fernando Alonso that made 2 collisions, like a speed in the race and a collision where it wasn't really his fault. But Lance Stroll, 6 out of 10, he did what he could do, to be honest, with that car. Maybe a 5.5 out of 10 because he was behind his teammate the whole weekend. Fernando Alonso did what he had to do, 6.5 out of 10. I would have given him a bit more for the qualifying, but then he's fine in the race. We didn't really know if it was his fault actually or not. He was doing a very good sprint race until Liam Lawson just wanted to kill everyone on the track, and so decided to smash Fernando Alonso in the wall. Very lucky safety car, by the way. We'll talk about it later when we talk about Lando Norris. Yeah, 6.5. So Nico Hülkenberg, I love his teammate. Solid weekend with the car he has. For me, it's a 6.5 out of 10, something like that. I think he's absolutely fine for what he did, for the car he has. Maybe it's also 7 out of 10. Nothing we can really say again about him. Pretty anonymous weekend. Not really maybe for him, but for the car, obviously, that you can't really see how good the driver are with that car. You just have to compare with his teammate, and he beat his teammate. He's a rookie, okay, but he beat him, and so it's a good weekend for in P13 for Pierre Gasly. Better weekend than his teammate, but again the car wasn't there, the Alpine wasn't there this weekend. the engineer is important, and so that's why also probably Alpine wasn't there, because obviously we know the Renault engines are pretty bad, and so they would go with Mercedes. Luckily for them, in 2026. So pretty solid weekend ahead of his teammate. Nothing really more that he could do. So for me, again, it's like 6.5 out of 10. Pretty well for Ocon. Very, yeah, pretty anonymous weekend, like normal weekend, until the qualifying. The qualifying for the race, P9 for him. And it's a top for me. It's a top of the weekend, and it's an 8 out of 10. To be honest, almost only for that qualifying. But oh my god, putting a NAS in Q3, P9 while your teammate is P20, very good weekend. In particular, the qualifying, and then obviously the rest as well for Esteban Ocon. Unfortunately, P12 for him, out of the points. P11 for Ajar, beating his teammate. Solid, very solid. The track he never drove in, also his teammate, but he beat him, so very good. Almost in the points. In the qualifying, qualified P11. He finished P11 in the sprint race. He did P10, so no points for him because he's at the top 8 the points, but pretty solid weekend. Always ahead of his teammate. For me, is a 7, very solid 7 out of 10 for Ajar. That is demonstrating that he's a really talented and very good driver, in my opinion. That will deserve a lot, to be honest, my opinion. Yuki Tsunoda, 4 out of 10 for me. Your teammate is fighting almost for the win. He tries at least, he does the pole position. You are P10 in the race. No, you can't get anywhere. We know probably it's the car that is difficult to drive. The second Red Bull seat is like that. But you have to compare to your teammate, and your teammate did pole while you did, wait a second, while you did P10. Yeah, then us. I don't know. Yuki, as all the second drivers is not maybe feeling that car as much as Verstappen does. Obviously, and so he's P10. But for me, it's a flop because with that car, most of the drivers would do that probably. Maybe a Leclerc, for example, not, to be honest, because he has a very similar driving style to Max Verstappen, very pointy front, and so I think Leclerc could actually drive the Red Bull. I don't know if as good as Max, but alright. For me, it's a flop, absolutely. Yuki Tsunoda, 4 out of 10. P9 for Carlos Sainz, 6.5 out of 10. Very solid weekend in the points. Very good qualifying, very good solid weekend ahead of his teammate. Maybe also 7 out of 10, sorry. Yeah, 7 out of 10. Ahead of his teammate for mostly of the weekend. Then in the race, it changed a bit. Albon passed him for some lucky situations maybe as well. He had probably more pace as well. But yeah, very good solid weekend for Carlos Sainz, to be honest, that he's feeling now the car much more. And now he can actually beat his teammate. He's starting taking confidence with this car, and we see the car of Sainz we saw in Ferrari actually, so very solid, very consistent, and very fast in particular. Very good Carlos Sainz, continuing in this way that you're doing a very good job with that car. P8, Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion. P12 in for me is a flop. It's a flop of the week. It's a flop of the qualifying and the race. Not of the sprint race. In the sprint race, he did a good job. P3 with a bit of a luck. Very good call by Ferrari, but also by Lewis. So it's a 50-50, I would say. Maybe also more by Lewis that felt the car, felt that was the right time to pit. So very good in that. He was just behind his teammate in the qualifying for the sprint race, so I accept it. It was not so far back, like 4 tenths back, but it was like 1.5 tenths back, so it's acceptable. Okay, I can accept it. And then the race, you just qualified P12, not even in Q3. And then the race, with a bit of a luck, all the virtual safety car just finished behind his teammate. He passed his teammate, then he didn't have pace, and so Leclerc passed him. That was a bit, yeah, just basically, it was a bit annoying in the race as well. Don't agree with that. If we have to look at the sprint, I would give him an 8 out of 10, to be honest, because of that call as well, of his management of the race and etc. the Grand Prix itself with a qualifying like a 5 out of 10. So for me, it's like a 7 out of 10, just because there was a sprint race actually that saved this weekend, to be honest, because otherwise it would be another very, very bad weekend for him. 6 races. Leclerc out of 6 races was ahead of Lewis Hamilton, because P7 is Charles Leclerc. Started the weekend in a normal way, good way. Beat his teammate in qualifying, not by a lot, but still beated him. That's the important thing, to be honest. And then he crashed out. I'm a Leclerc fan. He crashed out even before the formation lap, and this is a bit unacceptable. 50-50 fault, I would say, between Ferrari and Leclerc. Leclerc said it was also his fault, but I would say it's also Ferrari's fault, because to go on track with the intermediates when it's raining that much, maybe I would do the same choice, okay? Not discussing that, but it was, if we look at it, it was a mistake. So 50% of it was Ferrari mistake, 50% was Leclerc mistake. Maybe also more Ferrari, to be honest, because he went in aquaplaning and etc. So he couldn't do the sprint race, and this we have to count actually. This we have to count because it's a bit of also his fault. In the qualifying of the race, beat his teammate again. In the race, demonstrated he was faster than his teammate. He got a bit unlucky with a virtual safety car that ended when he was still in the pits. So he didn't gain that much as Hamilton in the virtual safety car, that gained like 2 or 3 positions. I would say if Hamilton was a 7 out of 10, Leclerc is a 7 out of 10 as well, just because it could be better, could be maybe 6.5 out of 10 for Leclerc, to be honest. Yeah, 6.5 out of 10 for Leclerc, because of that crash that is a bit unacceptable, even if it's not all his fault. Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Oh, finally something good for Italians like me, because Ferrari is just shit, unfortunately. P6, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. How we can talk about this weekend of Antonelli without saying the word unlucky, because oh god, if he was unlucky. What a pole position. A track he never drove in, destroyed his teammate, demonstrated he was faster than his teammate for the whole weekend, and Russell got pretty lucky with a virtual safety car and got the podium. We'll talk about it later. But basically, what a weekend for Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Was so fast for the first time in this season, faster than his teammate, which is a really good sign. Pole position, mega pole position, beat everyone with a very good management of the tires in a track again that he never drove in, just a free practice. He did this Friday, and then he drove mega pole position. I was so happy for him. I hoped he could win the sprint race. Actually, I believed he might win the sprint race, even if McLaren was strong. Turn 1, he started not in the best way. The conditions were tricky. Piastri started better. Turn 1, Andrea Kimi Antonelli is ahead at the apex. Andrea Kimi Antonelli got pushed out by Oscar Piastri. Andrea Kimi Antonelli lost 5 positions. No, like in that moment, like 2 to 3 positions, I think. Oscar Piastri, obviously, no penalty. Don't agree with that. It was clear in the FIA rules. If you're ahead of the apex, you need to have space. Andrea Kimi Antonelli was ahead at the apex. No penalty for Oscar Piastri. Amazing FIA, love you. Don't understanding these rules, because even if you understand them, they don't apply them. So fucking shit. Then, but didn't finish the year, because at a pit stop, obviously, he tried to pit. Unsafe release for the Red Bull that isn't understanding how the lights of the pits works. Unsafe release, incredible unsafe release for Verstappen. Andrea Kimi Antonelli did basically a drive-through and had to repeat again. Just a shame, just so unlucky with that again. And so from P1 the grid he finished like P11, I think P10 in the sprint race. Just so messy, and yeah, not really his fault, to be honest. Like, his fault was not starting good, but Piastri completely pushed him out. So I would say very, very unlucky. And also in the race was pretty unlucky because he was starting in an amazing P3 under very good qualifying by Andrea Antonelli. He lost the position on Oscar Piastri, as we could expect, but not at the start. So at the start he maintained the position. That then the McLaren was so fast this weekend, and so it's okay that he lost the position. Then he was running in a very good P4, and he was there with Verstappen, like 2 seconds to Verstappen. Virtual safety car. Russell gained a lot, so he lost some positions for that. Also behind the Williams of Alexander Albon. That was another very unlucky incident, to be honest. P5 for Alexander Albon. What a Williams, what a driver. 8.5 out of 10 for me. Mega drive, mega job. Very good Williams, by the way, in this weekend was so strong. Very mega job. Albon that is ahead of the both Ferraris. Albon that is ahead of a Mercedes of Andrea Antonelli. Yeah, he's behind Verstappen. Is incredible. P5 for the Williams is one of the best results probably in the last 5 years, to be honest. Very good Albon. Very good. The Williams was there. He drove better than Sainz, at least in the race. He didn't beat him in qualifying. Very good, solid weekend. Congrats, Albon. P4, Max Emilian Verstappen. P2 at a sprint race in qualifying. Then, without that unlucky episode, because it wasn't his fault, obviously, the unsafe release, but the Red Bull fault. Without that, he could, like, it was running like P3, something like that, so he could have been P3, something like that. He was doing his right. Yeah, just bit lucky with that, actually. That happens, and so unfortunately, not really his fault, obviously. Then a mega lap on the Saturday, pole position, another mega pole position by Max Verstappen. That with that car is fighting in some way for the championship. At the start, he pushed Norris out, but the rule says if you're ahead of the apex, you can basically smash the car into the wall. They almost say this, and he did it, and so no penalty, obviously, as the rule says. And then he tried to defend as hard as he possibly could on Norris, on Piastri. I know he did like 1 or 2 mistakes, but guys, he tried to defend on those cars. Is incredible what he did, to be honest, in those 15 laps. He tried it, he couldn't. For me, it's a 9 out of 10 because he's showing how good of a driver he is, how hard he's trying to keep the fight open for the championship and etc. Very good, very good. George Russell. Oh, I didn't give a rate for Antonelli. I'm sorry, I just realized it. For Antonelli, it's a 9 out of 10. To be honest, he drove spectacularly, very unlucky, but in general, he could have won maybe the sprint race. I don't think so, but he could have won actually, or he could have scored podium in that, and he could have been like P4 in the race. Faster for all the weekend against George Russell. Kimi that he never drove on this track, and he was faster than his teammate. That's the most impressive thing, to be honest. Really a lot of confidence in this track for some reason. I don't know why. Very solid weekend, and so if instead of his teammate, we were talking obviously about George Russell. George Russell behind his teammate for the whole weekend. That very lucky then with the safety car, because he could have probably maybe been behind Kimi Antonelli. For me, he's a 7 out of 10. He scored still the podium while you're behind your teammate, so not the best, George, but okay, he did. He's doing a very good season, so can happen. That maybe one race you're slower than your teammate. He wasn't slower than 5/10 like Lewis most of the times on Leclerc, so he's okay, can happen, so he's completely fine. Still a podium, so 7 out of 10 for him. My opinion, P2 for Baldo Lando Norris, and he's the luckiest man in the world, not only in Miami, but also in Miami. Safety cars that for him, I think he just like bought the safety cars of Miami because it's so lucky every year. Yeah, what a luck with the safety car in the sprint race. Wow. Piastri would have won it. Norris did. No, it's okay. Um, he drove okay, to be honest. He didn't drove bad, but Piastri obviously deserved it much more than Lando Norris. Very lucky again, Lando Norris in the sprint race, and so he did what he had to do in the sprint race. And then the qualifying ahead of his teammate did what he had to do. Then in the race, he tried an attack on Verstappen at the lap 1 that I can maybe understand, but if you really think about it again, no, I think it's fair. But with that, without waiting like Oscar did as well later on, different situations, I understand. Maybe Piastri would have done the same, but Piastri waited. Piastri was smart. Piastri passed when he could pass, actually. Norris didn't, and so that's how much he penalized him in the actual race then. And yeah, obviously he had to come back. Piastri in the meantime gained time on Norris. Actually, Norris seemed to be faster than Oscar Piastri, but maybe Piastri was managing obviously much more because he knew he had a lot of an advantage on Lando, so he didn't really have to push that much. Just bring the car home basically. So I would say yeah, he's not a bad weekend, but still behind his teammate Lando Norris. For me, it's like a 7 out of 10. He did his job, but nothing more. He didn't beat his teammate. So Piastri in P1. For me, it's a solid 8 out of 10. Fourth win of the season for Oscar Piastri. Third consecutive win for Oscar Piastri. This man is scary because he's winning also when he isn't the fastest on track, like he did in Saudi, like he did as well today. Yes, I don't mind. For you is the other day, but by the way, he won again. Even if he's not the fastest, so I got very good Piastri. He did also the great day, so it was really good to see it. Yeah, actually very lucky in the sprint race. He would have won it. So okay. And then in the race, it's just being smart, and then Lando Norris waiting for the best spot to attack Verstappen. He did it, easy, clean, gained 10 seconds on Norris in that way, managed the race completely. He just bring the car to home and just won the race, and he's now leader of the championship by 16 points, something like that. Then we have Norris, and then we have 16 points behind Norris. We should have Verstappen, I think. Verstappen is incredible that he's still in some way there, waiting for the Barcelona rules changes that hopefully they will fix. They will change the values obviously on the car. Let me know your opinions, guys. Sorry for this so long video. I don't know how many of you will watch the video until this point. If you arrived here, just comment leg. If you want. Let me know your thoughts about this video. Sorry for that I'm not taking a lot of care on this channel, but I have lots of things to do on the other channels that are bigger and etc. So I hope you understand. Thank you so much for watching. As always, it's my pleasure. Cheers!